Hey everyone, I'm going to be making a Death by Chocolate and I really want to share this with you because it's absolutely fantastic. We're going to be making 3 layers. We're going to have the pastry at the bottom, and then we're going to have like a gooey center, and then right at the top we're going to make an absolutely fantastic ganache. And this is what you really need to be making at home if you're having a dinner party or something like that, because your friends will absolutely love this. Let's start off with the pastry. You got a bit of cocoa, you got flour, you got icing sugar, you got a bit of vanilla essence, butter and egg. Moving on, we're going to be looking at the filling. So I'm going to be using a bit of chocolate, I'm going to be using a bit of flour, some butter, eggs, as well as caster sugar. And lastly, this is what we're going to be using for the ganache: a bit of cream and then chocolate. I'm using a milk chocolate just because everyone likes milk chocolate, but you can use dark chocolate. I'm quite a fan of dark chocolate. Really, really fantastic cardiovascular health benefits, but this is what everyone loves, so hey, let's do it. I'm going to be making the pastry now. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be buttering the pan, or the tart, should I say. So put a nice amount of butter on it, so it's obviously not going to stick. I just use a little bit of paper from the butter, and I just push it around like this. And then what I do is I just use my fingers next, and I just put it all over the edges. Place it on the base. Make sure you put a nice amount on the base. Some people use spray and cook, but I prefer real butter. I've just buttered the pan. So what I'm going to do now is put the oven on at 150 degrees because we're going to be cooking the pastry and the middle section on that temperature. So what we're going to start off with is 180 grams of butter. So I'm just going to cut 180 grams of cold butter. So I'm just going to weigh it, measure it. Just needs a little bit more. There we go. So once the butter's done, I just put that aside. I've just weighed 240 grams of flour in my bowl. And then I'm just going to add in another 90 grams of icing sugar. So let's put that in there. Okay. And then I'm going to follow it off with cocoa. So I've used about 1/4 cup of cocoa. Put that in, and then all I do is take it off the scale and sieve it. Crack 1 egg into your bowl. So you're just going to lightly beat it for me. And then you're going to add in just 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence into your egg. Okay. And then just lightly beat it. Just going to put it aside there. And then what you do with your butter, you can rub the butter in using your hands, or you can use a Magimix or a blender. But another idea is to use a grater and actually grate the butter into the flour. And the butter has to be cold when you do this, and it makes it easier when you're rubbing in the butter into the flour. Okay, all right, now you're just going to rub it in to fine breadcrumbs. I've just finished crumbing the flour and butter together. So it's fine breadcrumbs that we've created with the rubbing of the mixture together. Now what I need to do is make a pastry with this. We need to bind it together. So we add a bit of the egg and the vanilla essence in here. So we put it into the bowl. And we start to mix it up to make a pastry. If you find the pastry doesn't bind well together, you can add a little bit of cold iced water. So I'll put in around about 1 tablespoon at a time, but it's coming on together quite nicely. So just mix it together. As I said, you can use a food processor if you want to make this easier, but some of us don't have food processors. Actually, at chef school, we were taught to make everything by hand. So when you had to beat your eggs and your sugar together to make it light and fluffy, it would take you like 10 minutes to do that. All right, so I've got the pastry now. Just quickly mix it together, make sure it's binding quite nicely. And what I'm going to do is just lightly put a little bit of flour on the surface, and I'm going to slowly roll it up. There's a sound. Oh, right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on the surface. Just rub it over, and then we're going to put the dough, I'm just going to flatten it out a bit with my hands. And then I'm going to place it on the tabletop, one side, and it's just lightly floured now. And then we're just going to roll it out nice and thinly so it can be placed on the tart or in the tart dish. Okay. So you can see them rolling it out here. I'm just going to lift it up a little bit, put a little bit more flour on it, dust it off. You don't want too much flour, otherwise it's just going to make it very dry, the pastry. And it'll also change the flavor because of that dryness it will create. These are actually fantastic. You can cut them into stars or different shapes and actually make biscuits with the pastry because it's really, really delicious. But everyone else likes to eat it raw. So you've got to make this quickly before everyone actually consumes all the pastry dough before you've even actually made the dish. So I want to see if the pastry is going to work. That will be absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift the pastry up and put it over the base. So you'll see over here. And if it starts to crack or break, don't worry, you can easily fix that. So I'll just push that in like this. There we go. Push it in. Look how beautifully that's falling. All right, so the excess pastry, what you can do is you can freeze it and use it for another smaller tart, or as I said, you can make biscuits out of it, or just eat the dough raw. Okay, so I'll pack that in the fridge. I'll make little balls or little biscuits out of it. So what I'm going to do is just push the pastry up a little bit, not too much, just up along the edges so it just falls just above. And I'm going to put it in the fridge. I'm going to leave it to cool in the fridge while I make the filling. I'm going to be making the filling now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt chocolate in a bowl. So I'm going to use 100 grams of chocolate with 100 grams of butter. And we're going to put it over a double boiler to help it melt. I'm going to whisk the eggs and the sugar in the Thermomix. You can use a handheld beater or you can use your hand, but it's going to take a long time. And what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to triple the volume. And the egg goes a pale white fluffy color, pale white color, and it's very fluffy in texture. So I poured the egg and sugar mixture in here, and it's whipped up very nicely, light and pale. I'm going to just add about 45 grams of flour into the mix, and I'm going to fold that in. I'm just going to fold it in lightly. And then I'm just going to fold in the melted chocolate. Make sure the chocolate's not too hot. So let's just fold that in. Oh, it looks absolutely delicious. I'm just going to pour it in like that. Fold it in. Let me just scrape it. So let's just fold it in beautifully. There we go, and it's ready. I've taken the pastry base out of the fridge and I'm going to pour the mixture into the pastry base. So here we go. Oh, look at that. Take it all out. So just flatten it a bit. All right, and then we're going to bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, so let's put that in. I'm going to be making the ganache. So what I've done is I've measured 100 mils of cream, and I'm going to pour it in the bowl and then place it on the double boiler, and we're going to bring it to quite a hot temperature. Once it's got very hot, the cream, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to add in the chopped chocolate, and then we'll mix it up to form the ganache. The chocolate has melted in the cream, so I'm just going to mix it to create a liquid form. I'm just going to take the tart out. Now I'm going to allow the tart to cool, and as it cools, you'll see the mixture in the middle will start to go down. And as it starts to go down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it lightly around a bit later on to push it down. And then once it's cooled completely, I'm going to pour the ganache over it. So what I've done with the tart is I've just pushed the base down, or the filling down, just on the side. So I packed it not too tight, but just so it's flat along the edges. And then I'm going to pour the ganache, which is nearly set, over the tart mix. Just going to pour it over like that. All right, I'm just going to spread it over. And then what we're going to do is just leave it for an hour or two just to set. And then we're going to cut and serve. Yeah. Oh, this is so good. It's ridiculous how good it is. Oh, there we go. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to leave it a little bit wavy. Here we go. Oh, look at that. And there you have it.